All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining today's First Friday Public Affairs Call Update. I'm Steve Japinga, Senior Vice President of Public Affairs at the Lansing Regional Chamber of Commerce. These monthly calls are designed to keep our members informed, engaged on federal, state, regional, local issues shaping Lansing's business climate. So, a special thank you to ITC Holdings for making these calls possible. Really appreciate their partnership. As a reminder, today's call is being recorded, and all the information shared is as current as June 5th, 11 o'clock to 11:30 a.m. Things change very rapidly, like we all know. In this world and our state, nation, all the way down local. But before we welcome our special guest, and we're going to have Keith Lane on, District Director for Congressman Tom Barrett, I wanted to provide a couple brief, quick updates, the best I can from the chamber, at least some high level things. But yesterday at our Lansing Economic Club, I know a lot of you, and may some may not have been there, but we had a great conversation, discussion on our population. Where do we see our region by 2050? But we know we don't want to wait till 2050, so we have to put plans in place now. But it's great to have that data um, um, in front of us, so we can really know the issues and where we got to go. This all stemmed out of our State of the Region report back from 2025, where we were benchmarking 11 other key regions across the Midwest, out east, down south, that we were benchmarking ourselves. So a lot of strengths, obviously, in our region, but a lot of areas to work on, including population. Just for those that do join us throughout each month at our roundtables, we are trying to really talk about some of these issues. So we've been pulling a lot of the information that LEAP has put together. Um, each of those different jurisdictions that we're in. So next week at our Lansing Delhi Township Business Roundtable, we're going to be putting out, here's kind of the population study, the demographics here in these municipalities, and just have discussions on that outside of getting updates from all of you at our roundtable. So really important. We're going to hear a lot about it, not only this year, but for many years to come. And then two other items I wanted to touch base on, because I know we've been sending out a lot of information on this, asking members to join, sign up. But there's two big projects happening in the city of East Lansing, particularly in downtown East Lansing. The Howard redevelopment, which would redevelop the 600 block of the student bookstore in downtown East Lansing, and then also the Rock Bar expansion proposal that's in the Graduate Hotel. So, kind of a status update on both of those those projects. So, the Howard, just last week, the Howard project was in front of the East Lansing Planning Commission. It was a 3 or 4 hour long planning commission. Not just on the Howard, there were a lot of other proposals that were in place there, but the East Lansing Planning Commission did vote in favor of they did approve the updated plan from the developer for the Howard development. So that is going to be upcoming on the East Lansing City Council. I haven't seen the agenda yet for that day, but that's on Tuesday, June 16th. So members are going to see a lot more communications from us of just, we want people to get out to the East Lansing City Council to support that, but also we have sign-on opportunities to support that project if you can't make it that day. You can also come in person, or you can jump online through their virtual link, but we'll get that out to everybody. So it's great to see that momentum for that project. And then on the Rock Bar expansion, they're still going through their process, but they did get approved by the Downtown Development Authority on their liquor license. So it's good to see some of that permitting is moving forward on an awesome location to not only get food and drink, but to get the views of campus and downtown Lansing at the Rock Bar. So I want to thank everybody for their engagement on those two items, but things are moving and progressing in a positive way. So couple other things, our Meet the Candidate series. I know there's a lot of those right now, but we are in election season, and we're working to make sure that members have access, can sit down with the candidates asking for our votes, but have an opportunity to meet them, dive in a little bit more on some of the issues, but ask them questions. So We'll be sending more information. We have several next week, and all of June, some in July. But if you can make those, they're important, and we'd love to have you participate in those. And then our Pints and Politics is on the calendar this month too. Lots happening in June. I know we're getting to the summer here, but for those that haven't been there, great opportunity. No agenda, no formal program. We do this at Kelly's downtown, historic restaurant and bar in downtown Lansing. Elected officials, their staff, business leaders, just get together, talk about whatever they want to talk about, but just building those relationships. So with that, excited to and pleased to welcome our special guest this month, Keith Lane from the office of Congressman Tom Barrett. I thought Keith could come on. There's several things happening on the federal level. Things move fast, huge pieces of legislation. But I thought I'd have Keith come on here, and I really appreciate him and the team in the district office as well as DC, but the congressman on several issues, but very accessible. And Keith, the screen is yours. I will remove the spotlight from me and put it on you.
Awesome. Not much of a spotlight over here, but I do appreciate the intro, Steve. For those, I see a lot of names that I've met over the last year, being the district director for Congressman Tom Barrett. You've got me at the roundtables, the economic events. I'm trying to get around to everybody and anybody that wants to talk and have a meeting. Just a little bit about me. I'm from the area, served in the Army for about 16 years before coming on to the congressman's team. I'm a Holt grad, so being in this role is an honor for me to be able to represent the area that did so much for me over the last 40 years. And so it's an honor to be in this position, to work for the congressman, to help represent you and be your voice in Congress. As someone that's from the community, I take it very seriously that when we talk some of these things that happen at the federal level, how that impacts the Delta townships, the Stock Bridges, from the east to the west, north and south, all the counties that we represent here. So as Steve had mentioned, there's a lot that's going on that the congressman has been working on in DC to bring back different things to the district. I kind of want to lay it out. We talked infrastructure yesterday with Tim and Bob Trezise and Manager Reed of Delta Township, and they really laid out a really good picture of some of the struggles that the area is having, mainly with infrastructure and what that looks like going forward. And when we're not growing the population base, that taxable base really kind of dwindles, and we have what we've seen is a lot of aging infrastructure across the district. Whether you're in Clinton County, Livingston County, Ingham County, Eaton County, it doesn't matter. We see a lot of these smaller towns and some of these even bigger cities that have water pipes and drain storms that are 80, 100 years old. Those pipes that may be 3 inches are now corroded and filled up to 1.5 inches. And, standard now in 2026 says that they need to be 4 inches. So those tax bases can't really invest, and it's going to really drag down those communities to grow and develop economically, to replace some of that aging infrastructure. And so when the congressman was elected 2 years ago, we're in 18 months now, he really wanted to bring that infrastructure focus and what we did back to the community. And so last year when we did community funding projects, we had a historic amount bringing back into the community, over 146 million federal dollars coming back on infrastructure, real infrastructure, to help these communities across the district. And that includes, $7.8 million for the airport to redo the jet terminal at Fly Lansing. So when we're doing all those awesome flights to Orlando, Chicago, DC, that we're doing it safely and doing that investment to attract people coming in from different areas. Clinton County roads got $2.5 million to help a different amount of pieces. There's a bridge in Maple Rapids that has been neglected for years, and it's the only way to traverse the river in Maple Rapids. So you have to go 5 miles one way. So kids are on the school bus for almost 60 minutes longer if they can't go over this bridge. So we really thought that by providing some of these infrastructure dollars that we could help improve the community and drive more business and improvement. That way that it doesn't raise the tax base in those areas, but also that it drives the infrastructure investment in that area. So that's what we did last year, over 146 million. This year we have submitted our projects again. There's almost $70 million in request. And again, with that focus on transportation, infrastructure, and public safety. We look at about $14 million for fire stations in Lansing Township and Clinton County wide EMS, making sure that people have the ability to have a ambulance come and get them, and that it is not impacting the county as a whole, to make sure that that service is there. As we look at water and utility, this is going to be a big one that Manager Reed talked about yesterday. The Eaton County intercounty drain project is a $60 million project, and we're working with Representative Whitwer and Senator Anthony to do a whole of government approach. So we're bringing in state dollars, we're bringing in federal dollars to help this community grow and develop, so that the tax base in Delta County can invest in that economic development and not that $60 million drain project. Now, we can't take all of that burden as the federal government. We can help with it, but we also want to spread the peanut butter across the district as well. So Grand Ledge has a water purification and system improvement that we want to help with. Owasso has the same thing. The village of Westphalia has the same issue. So all these water projects are coming out because they were done about the same time, 80 years ago, and that aging requirement to update it to have clean drinking water and good sewage across is really key. One thing that we took a look at this year in our community project submission is healthcare. I hope none of us have had to use the Sparrow emergency room, but if you have, it's been a long time since it's been updated, and it needs help to get it into the best care at those traumatic and trauma times. So we submitted $1 million to help Sparrow invest in not just increasing the size so you don't have patients in hallways and stuff, but to have the critical care that you need to support our nurses, our doctors, and the community as a whole. McLaren has a $1 million request that we submitted for a Da Vinci robot, which has specialists specialist surgeons that can be anywhere in the world operating here in Lansing at the new McLaren piece to really give us that advanced care, and also to help Memorial Healthcare upgrade some of their plumbing issues that they're having in Owasso, again, to help ease the burden of these communities. When we look at transportation infrastructure, we hit that again with Grange Road improvements in St. John's, Marsh Road in Hazlitt Okemos, helping with some drain infrastructure there. So we want to make sure that we're spreading also to the communities and not solely putting it in Lansing, but the 5 counties that we have, and making sure that every community that's investing, we all pay federal taxes. We want to make sure that that's bringing back. Another big one on what we submitted this year, before we kind of get into some of the big bills that we talked about, over 150 visits to manufacturers across the district, we hear one glaring issue, and that's workforce development. So Lansing Community College and our team is teaming up to do a $2 million funding stream for a workforce development center. And what that's going to do is allow the community college here in Lansing, Go Stars, to build these electricians, these plumbers, really impact that fact that we need smart, educated, advanced manufacturing workers. This isn't our grandpas and our great grandpas stamp pressing at GM or Olds plant. These are advanced machines across these new plants at GM that they're investing here at LGR, LG. They need qualified, trained people. And so we're teaming up with Lansing Community College to be able to help support that workforce development piece. So we have trained, qualified workers going across the district to help with that. So that's kind of one bucket of what we've done as far as appropriations. Those are all what we would call a couple of years ago earmarks, and they're now called community funding projects. That is, again, money that's coming back into the community, that we're working on real infrastructure piece. So those are one things that we've been working on. Usually those submissions go in February, March, April timeframe. They kind of slid it real close to us on a normal advanced time frame this year. So if you're part of a community, I see that Logan's on here from Eaton County, have these projects ready to submit January, February time frame, so that we don't get caught off guard on an advanced timeline next year. One big thing, we'll kind of transition into what the congressman has been doing out in D.C. this past week and a half, 2 weeks, is the Surface Transportation Act, or known as the Build America 250 Act. And what this does is it reauthorizes the federal surface transportation program, so all our highway, bridges, ports, all that funding through 2031. So it's a 5-year bill. And it's going to focus on our roads, bridges, freight corridors, train, rail, waterways. So one thing that I'd like to highlight is even though that our district here in Lansing is landlocked, we don't touch the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes impact our entire state. So what's good for Michigan is good for us here in the 7th District. And we've got 39 ports in the Soo Locks that are, strategic for us to help build that economic development for the state. And that will all drive transportation dollars through Lansing and our 96 corridor, the 69 corridor, and to the south in 94 as well. So this Bill 250 Act really puts, less permitting delays. So Eagle and EPA have some redundant legislation and permitting that they go through. And we want to reduce that so our commissioners that are going out and building and resurfacing these roads, that they don't get hung up in an Eagle and EPA redundant process that doubles their timeline for waiting to get those roads taken care of. So we've heard that. We made sure that it was taken into account in Bill 250 so that the federal legislation reduces some of that permitting and some of those delays that come with it. We also wanted to provide states with a greater flexibility. The congressman in Oklahoma doesn't know about the 9669 interchange and 496 here in Lansing. So we wanted to make sure that the people that know the area in Michigan and in the district are the ones that have the most flexibility and decision making on how the money is spent when we actually, fund this project. As we look, so we're giving, the local county commissioners and MDOT the ability to dictate where that money goes because they're the experts. They really are. EV was a big one, hybrid vehicles. So I think we all have seen the historic amount of EVs on the road currently, which is great. Unfortunately, a lot of that tax base that goes towards the roads comes from a gas tax. Those vehicles that are using the roads and are, turning up, they're making potholes, they're a part of that transportation system. What the Bill 250 America Act is puts that onus on those cars that may not be paying a gas tax to make sure that they're paying their fair share to help keep updating those bridges and roads as well. And so what does that mean for Michigan? So Michigan's geared to get about $7.8 billion in highway funds and appropriations. That's about 551 million more than the previous Surface Transportation Act that was passed. That's a lot of money. If you talk to our county commissioners and MDOT managers, you can do a lot with $551 million. That's a lot of mileways that will go to fixing these roads across the state and especially in our district here. Another focus was on investment on bridges. We have almost 11,000 bridges here in Michigan, of which 1,200 of them are in poor condition. So we really want to make sure that we're investing in that so we have safe bridges across the district and across the state. So that turns out to be about $163 million that's invested just in bridges alone here in Michigan. Another part of the Build America 250 is the transit agency. So our CATAs, our EA-Trans, our LETs across the district, these transit agencies are going to get almost $173 million across just in FY27. And we really want to make sure that public transportation stays funded and ensure that we're doing it in an appropriate way so that, in case you're not using, your cars or you have different requirements for transportation, that you're able to get around and do what you need to do. And so when we talk about why does this matter to our county road commissioners or our local governments? Again, we want to make sure that the funding goes directly to the people that are using it and actually putting those new roads and bridges together. And we want to take the federal bureaucracy out of it. So that was a main topic. It was a sticking point that we fought for. We want to make sure that, the Clinton County Road Commission, Livingston Road Commission, Ingham Road Commission, that these people that are doing, 90% of our roads have the money and have the ability to actually go in and, do what they need to do instead of being dictated from there. So it was a huge bill. We're proud that we got it out of committee. It's about to go through the House and get past the Senate. We don't see any issues. So that money and that bill will get processed here fairly quickly. But again, the congressman does sit on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. So that is one of his, 9 to 5 jobs when he is in DC, as he is in that T&I committee, working on these things to make sure that, not just in Michigan and Lansing, but the whole nation is using our federal tax dollars appropriately, and doing it diligently so that we're improving the infrastructure that we have across America, and we don't have to reinvest as much if we fix it right the first time. So that was some of the big things that we came through with the surface transportation bill. Another big one that is impacted that has been passed is the new farm bill. And that's really big outside of the Ingham County area. If you look at the district as a whole, there's a lot of farmers. We have some amazing farmers. In fact, Michigan as a whole is only second to California in the diverse amount of crops that we grow here. It's also very important for us in the district because we have MSU and the School of Agriculture here. That is kind of the leading, state college that goes through and does the research, and he takes our investment and research dollars and puts that across and doing a food security. So food security in the United States is national security. We need to be able to grow the food that we have and that we need for us to be able to sustain ourselves as a nation. And it really is a national security thing. And that's kind of what the food and farm bill did. And as we kind of look through, we have roughly 44,000 farms in Michigan. So we're super diverse in there. Like I said, number 2 state across the nation in diversity. And it's really going to help give us security when it comes to our corn and soybean acreage, which is dominant here in the Lansing area. So farmers, they continue to face very high input costs, inflation, volatile commodity prices, and the weather here in Michigan is, very diverse, as we all know. So this helps give some security for those farmers to be successful. It also invested into the SNAP program. And I want to make sure that, as we talk about SNAP, there's a lot of things that are out there. In the office here that we talk in facts and data. So in 2024, the SNAP budget was $94 billion across America. 2025, that grew to $101 billion, so almost a 5% increase. And then it grew another $2 billion to about $103 billion in 2026. So over the last 3 years, we've invested in securing, SNAP funding, grew that across the board, and will continue to do so for the next 7 to 10 years as well. So that's the Farm Bill. That was a big one that hadn't been passed in about 5 years, so we got that across the finish line as well. Another thing that the congressman is invested in, and I care about deeply as being a veteran, is he's on the VA committee. So the congressman passed his 7th and 8th bill out of the House, out of the VA committee, and this one is a pretty important one. The last one was the Shirley Briley Act, and what it does is it fulfills the obligation for America to really take care of our most severely disabled veterans and their families. And so what it did is, for the first time in 2 decades, is increase the income of veterans that are using or receiving special monthly compensation. So that is our most disabled veterans, as well as our dependent families that lost a loved one. So our Gold Star family, they lost their father, their mother, their husband, their wife. We increased their benefits for the first time since 1993. And how we did that is we actually opened up the VA home loan eligibility. So there are more Guard and Reserve members that are eligible for home loans across the nation. And what that does is allows us to help increase that payment to those disabled veterans and the Gold Star families. That was a big one. That's his 7th and 8th bill that have passed through the House, which is a pretty impressive thing for a freshman congressman. And we're very proud of that, taking care of our veterans across the nation. And I'll touch on this last one. It's not so much infrastructure. It's not so much what the congressman was sent to DC to do, but it is something that we believe in wholeheartedly, as far as, what happened with the War Powers Act and what's going on in Iran. And so when the congressman went out there, he was a retiree out of the Michigan Army National Guard, 22 years. He actually ended the war that he fought in multiple deployments, and thought it was absolutely ludicrous that, as a congressman in 2025, that we're ending the use of force for the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. And what he ran on is making sure that Congress has its due right within the powers to go to war. When the war was kicked off in February, the War Powers Act of 1973 gives the executive branch 60 days plus 30 to withdraw, so 90 total days to complete their mission without the approval of Congress. There were a couple of war powers votes prior to the 60 days, which kind of goes against what the War Powers Act is to limit that authority. So the congressman did vote to, shut down the war powers before the 60-day time period. Once we went beyond that and we got to 63 days, he offered the administration a opportunity to do an authorized use of force, to give the executive branch and the Pentagon the ability to sustain what they're doing, but with guardrails to make sure that we're not getting into a forever war. So there's a deadline, that there's no troops on the ground except for search and rescue. All these things to make sure that Congress has its rightful position as the war approver. When that didn't get taken up by the legislative side of it, another war powers came out, and we've gone beyond the executive branch's power to be able to actually commit to that war in Iran. So the congressman voted about 2-3 weeks ago in support of the war powers, and it came to a tie, 212 to 212. A couple days ago, that War Powers Act came up again for a vote, and it actually passed this time, 215. So there's a couple different things going on, and people were kind of confused why he voted against it and then he supported it. And it really comes down to ensuring that Congress has its rightful stance within that checks and balances of the executive branch and the legislative branch. What's going to happen from here? It goes over to the Senate. They have their opportunity to do what they're going to do. But so that was kind of a historic vote across America. That's the first time that's ever been passed since 1973. And, that's just a little bit of what's going on there. And I think I'm just short of time, Steve. I think I covered everything I promised I would cover. And I'll turn it back over to you. So I appreciate everyone's time and thank you.
Well, Keith, that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, and you did a very amazing job of, as high level as possible. And of course, some very, I mean, it's all serious issues, but really appreciate you providing that update to the group. Yeah, I was texting Tim too that you were rocking it out on and keeping it really tight. But I know these are update calls, and I think Keith, the biggest thing, and yeah, I appreciate you putting your information in the chat there, very accessible for those on the call or those watching later on. I know we work very closely with the Congressman Barrett's office and Keith and the team, and we'll be providing a lot more of this information as it continues to move through Congress, such as the infrastructure, the Build Act is Keith is talking about, but really looking at our region, obviously the 7th congressional district, but what that impact looks like for us back home here. So I do want to thank Keith for coming on. Great update. Thank you to those that joined us this morning. Thank you to ITC Holdings again for making these possible. Our next update is actually on July 3rd, which is or July 4th. Sorry, because I think July 4th is on a Friday. So we will be adjusting that date because we're going to be all celebrating 250 years of our nation, which is just awesome. So really looking forward to that. But look for that updated time that we can provide these updates for you. But Keith, thank you so much for what you're doing and your time always, not only on this call but at the roundtables and other opportunities to connect with you in the Congressman's office. So thank you. And with that, have a great rest of your Friday in June, and be well.